What's up, y'all? We are back on yet another episode of Faith and Fame. Listen, I'm so excited about today's conversation. I think it's so needed. We are diving into the topic of therapy, mental health, mental illness. We're going all the way in. This is Faith and Fame with Brittney Q. Hill. Stay tuned. Y'all, we are back on yet another episode. I'm so excited. I'm joined by my good friend Mike Guest on behalf of Be Good Brand. I'm rocking his apparel. Look, therapy is dope because it is. And that's what we're talking about today. We're talking all things mental health, mental illness, therapy. So let's just dive in. Let's start right there. What encouraged this brand? What encouraged you, being so proactive about speaking on therapy? Tell me the journey, the story, the epiphany that you had that you just you knew you wanted to do something with it.
Well, first, thank you for having me here. This is amazing. So my therapist got me here, but before he got me here, I was lost. Okay. You know what I'm saying? So I have a long story of just trauma from as far back as I can remember that was very vivid. I would say it was my late teens. Okay. It was losing my dad. So I lost my dad when I was 18 through an act of really violence, just senseless violence. It was a gang initiation and some guys just shot him like a block away from the house. Like, it was crazy.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. So I was 18 when that happened, and it's kind of like at that point you're like, bro, I'm a man now, and I kind of need my man to show me how to be a man, and gone.
Put a pin in that.
And he gone.
I tell men or people, period, all the time that only a man can teach a man how to be a man.
For sure.
And that just solidifies it. It's true.
For sure, right? 100%. Yeah. And I'm from a family of 9. It's 5 boys, 4 girls. I'm at the top, so it's like, I don't think my mom intentionally was like, I don't have time for you, but I don't have time for you. I'm the single parent now. I got to raise your siblings. And
so where were you in that? Were you?
I am middle? 3rd from the top.
Okay, gotcha.
So older brother, twin sister, then me, and then the rest of the hooligans after that.
Yeah.
And so kind of at 18, it was kind of like, well, you got to go do your own thing now. You got to go figure it out. Like, remember everything he taught you. And he taught us a lot that shaped, my life and my siblings' lives. But it was still like a lot of searching, a lot of finding. Yeah. Even when it came to like theology, it was like, well, that's what Daddy said, but like, do I know? Like, so I had to dig in with theology. And then I was about 19 when I met my ex, and we had a child.
Okay.
It was kind of like you're raised in black church. It's, you better do the right thing, or you got the girl pregnant. You better do the right thing.
Gotcha.
And the right thing was not the right thing.
Okay.
And it
now, tell me what you mean by that. The right thing.
Yeah. So, it's a lot of you got her pregnant. Gotcha. Make a woman, what do they say? Make an honest woman out of her.
So you got her pregnant before you got married?
Before we got married.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I was in my teens. She was in her early 20s. I was 19. She was 21, I think. And it was like, all right, well, I got to be a man now.
Right.
To be a man, I got to marry you. I got to take care of these kids, my child.
Right.
When in reality, my responsibility was to take care of my child.
Right.
And so we married. It was toxic. It wasn't always toxic. It became toxic because I would say I began to realize this was not it. I was depressed for years and didn't even know it.
Wow.
I'm just like high level functioning. I'm like, I'm good.
We just talked
I'm
about
good.
That today.
Yeah. I'm good. It's like, no, you're not good. And that was one thing that my therapist kind of walked me through. He's like, you're just high functioning. You have a high ceiling. So he said, you have a high ceiling. And I didn't know what that meant. I was just like, I'm functioning, I'm doing life. I'm also an artist. So I'm booking shows, I'm making music, I'm out, I'm grinding. Everything was good.
Yeah.
But it it wasn't until 2020, you know, COVID, I think really slapped a lot of people in the mouth.
Man, what?
You know, yeah.
Right?
So.
For real.
And for me, it was like, I can't do this. You know, I think for me, it was the busyness slowed down.
Right, it forced you.
It forced me to like, you got to sit here now.
Yep.
And you got to sit here and face the reality of the life you created. And is this really it?
Yeah.
And then of course depression set in even more. It's like, oh my gosh, what is this? I can't go, I don't have an escape now.
Wow.
You know, so.
Ooh, that's good, Mike.
I was, you know, I used my art as a way of escape, almost as its own therapy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then it was like, I can't do that. What do I got to do? You got to face the truth. You got to face the music.
Yeah.
And I was July 2020. Just literally, I know I was playing with you earlier when I said car crash. You said, well, what led you to
like,
this?
huh?
A car crash.
Yeah.
But I make the kind of a comparison of a car crash because I wish I had a seatbelt on, and I call therapy a seatbelt, right?
Ooh, wait a minute. That's a tweet.
That's a bar. That's a bar.
You made therapy your seatbelt?
Well, I wish I would have made therapy a seatbelt before a car crash.
Elaborate on that a little bit.
So, you're in a car crash. You're driving your car.
I rebuke that, but yeah, go ahead. I got you.
So, you know what I mean? You driving down 400, you know, it's crazy. You ain't got your seatbelt on, you know, 411 pain, you know. It's,
stop and go, yeah.
You know, but you hit something and you don't have a seatbelt on, you have a different reaction and response than if you had a seatbelt on.
Absolutely.
So the seatbelt is proactive in case something happens.
Got you, yeah.
Where in most cases with therapy, for a lot of people, it's not that we use it in a proactive sense. We're like, I gotta wait, because I'm in a car crash.
Yeah.
And for me, that was 2020. My 2020 was the crash, and I had no seatbelt on.
That's so
You know what I'm saying? And because of, you know, the trauma undealt with my father's passing, and over the years of just suppressing it all, I kind of hit a ceiling where I'm like, bro, I can't do this anymore. Literally, I'm entertaining. I have we had a party going on, have family over, friends over, and my anxiety went through the roof. I'd never experienced it like this before.
Can I ask you really quick, because anxiety kind of manifests in different ways for different people, especially like, you know, for me, what did it look like for you?
For me, it was like I was standing still and everything around me was moving, and I was just, it was like almost like a TV show. You know what you see in the TV show where they just kind of, like the camera angles is kind of weird.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, everybody's like laughing and having fun, and I'm just there, and I'm just like.
And you could see everything.
I could see everything, but I just couldn't. And my sister, two of my sisters were there. Well, all of my siblings were there, but two of my sisters were in close proximity to me. And I just said, I need y'all upstairs. And like I walked away from the party, and as soon as I hit the top floor, I dropped. And my sister's like, he don't do this. He don't do this. What?
Something wrong.
You know, and she didn't say that out loud, but she's just like, afterwards we talked, and she's like, bro, like it scared me because I never saw this side of you since you were 18. Like that was literally the last time emotionally I was able to like let something out. Yeah. And so suppressing all of those emotions over the years, it just for whatever reason came to a head, and I'm on the floor in a fetal position and my sister's holding me, and I'm like, I'm the strong person. You know what I'm saying?
We can talk about that alone.
I'm the strong person. What have you done?
The strong person.
Yeah. And the strong person still needs to be held at times.
The strong person still needs to find solace in something else, you know? Man, we can, that alone, we could spend a whole episode talking about being the strong friend. Mm-hmm. Wow.
And that's me. I'm always there for everybody. You know, I try to take on a lot to relieve a lot of people, but I found out in therapy that's because of my trauma. You know? So that was a Saturday or Sunday when that occurred, and at that point I said, okay, I gotta get help. The next day I'm like, I'm better. I cried it out. We cried, kumbaya. She hugged me. We're good now. I'm good, right? We good. All right, hey, party,
on it.
bro. And funny that you say that, because another analogy I use is, you know, if you put a Band-Aid over the check engine light in your car,
it ain't
going nowhere. Your car needs some help.
Right.
And that was me, you know, I'm putting the Band-Aid over the check engine light of my brain and of my heart, and it wasn't helping.
Yeah.
You know? And so I would say by Monday, I had called out of work, talked to my supervisor. I'm like, yeah, I'm not coming in today. And by Tuesday, I was sending emails out to therapists. The first one that hit me back said, I can see you on Wednesday. I said, all right.
Yeah.
You know, and that's literally how it started.
Wow.
And I had friends, handful of friends that knew my story, knew my background, knew my life, and said, bro, you need therapy. And I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm like, yes, I'm good.
Yeah.
They're like, no, bro, you're not. And I'm like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
And thank God for those friends. Because now I look back, when we laugh about it now, like, I told you. They'd be like, I told you.
There's so much we have to unpack to what you just said. I'm going to try to remember every detail. I want to start with your marriage. One of the things that you said that I feel like we just need to call out, especially in the Christian community, is that just because you have a child out of wedlock does not mean you should get married. Because that just opens up a can of so many other problems.
It's not good for you. It's not good for them. It's not good for the kids.
Yeah.
I have other friends who are like, bro, we have similar stories, and he's just they're like, how do we have, how are we so much similar? And so the fact that I know that I have friends who have similar stories, I know that there's other people, y'all watching, who have those similar stories, who feel like, man, who feel just trapped and stuck and just like, is this it?
Yeah.
You know, is this the rest of my life? Is this, you know, you is this how we're going to have to do life? You know, it's kind of where I was at, was kind of like, we can make this work.
Yeah.
We can make it happen. And it's like, is that really what you want?
I do want to commend you though. Even though, you know, looking back in hindsight, you probably would have made a different decision. But the fact that you were willing to step up and make an honest woman out of her, I think that's commendable. Because society tells, especially in the, you know, Black society or Black culture, the Christian community, you're supposed to do that. So I commend you for doing that, you know, for stepping up to the plate. Wow, I got to process all that. Another thing you said that I really want us to take some time on, you said that your friends were telling you, man, you need therapy, you need therapy. Yeah. I was speaking with some friends last night, actually. I don't know if you've heard, but this week, Chesley Christ, the Miss USA that committed suicide this week, was actually a friend of mine.
Oh, yeah.
And I couldn't help but just to express, because, you know, I've been in that space too, that dark space. And I know without a shadow of doubt that if it wasn't for my family covering me and praying for me and pulling me up out of that dark space, I don't believe I would have made it out, to be, you know, perfectly frank. And so I couldn't help but wonder, like, well, who was around her? Who was she surrounded by? You know, did she have anybody covering her? You know, she lived in New York by herself. She spent a lot of time by herself. And so I just wonder, like, if she was surrounded by people that could identify, like your friends did, that, yo, you need some extra help. Not to say that she didn't, but I just think that it's so important to make sure you have a tight-knit circle, even if it's just a few friends, family, whatever, that can identify you're not okay. Yeah. What can we do to help you? So that's powerful.
But even not even to identify it, but even be willing to communicate it and say that, you know, because some people can identify it and they just won't say nothing to you.
That's true too.
You know, I have friends who will just pull me to the rug and say, bro, what's up?
Yeah.
Like, you know, so it's having those people around you that don't care about your title, who you are, what you do. They're like, bro, I care about you.
Yeah.
All of that other stuff don't mean nothing. If we don't have you, we don't, you know. So that circle, the circle of friends is super important when it comes to those people that you can let behind the curtain, you know, come backstage, you know, behind the scenes and really see all my mess, you know, and can, like you said, pull me out of it.
Yeah.
So, super
I
important.
also want to touch on a little bit, because they had shared this with Chesley as well. She had high functioning depression, and you said that was what you were diagnosed with too. Talk to me about the high functioning part. Yeah. What does that necessarily mean?
So that high functioning, it almost feels like you're okay. Until it's a mask. It almost feels like you're okay. You know, you're just constantly pushing you. If I don't stop, I don't lose momentum, then we're good.
Yeah.
As long as I don't, like I said, 2020 was a skirt. You hit the
You
brakes,
had
and it's
to
like,
sit in
whoa. It was like this, traffic,
Ooh, right
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You just have to stop. And so now I can't function highly. And because since, with the way COVID hit us so quickly, and it was a abrupt stop, and so for me with high functioning, it was always finding something to be active with doing, whether I'm doing something at the church, I'm serving at the church, I'm playing drums on the worship team, I'm doing footage for announcement footage, we're doing, youth nights, I'm serving with the youth department, I'm out doing my own shows, I'm going to work, finding, as long as I stay busy, I'm good. Hey, oh, what is this?
Yeah.
And so that high functioning for me was just, if I keep going, then I think I'm okay.
Yeah.
And that's maybe, I don't know if it was the same for her, but when my therapist told me that, I'm like, y'all feel good? He's like, no. I'm like, you're not healthy. I said, I feel healthy. He said, you're not healthy, you're high functioning.
Yeah.
And I said, ooh.
But you've grown so accustomed to that feeling that you can identify that something's wrong because for you, it's normal.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Whew. All right, let's move on and talk about therapy in a nutshell. But I really want you to discuss the stigmas behind therapy, primarily for Black women. Not Black women, Black men. I mean, I'll talk about the Black women.
That might be better.
Black men, yes. Because I know that you're very vocal on social media about that. Talk about the stigmas and why Black men are so like, ugh, I don't want to go to therapy.
Well, I think the stigma really starts at a really young age. It's crazy. I have a few younger nephews, and just in general conversation, I'm over my sister's house one day, and one of my nephews, my sister loves and supports what I do. Like, she reposts every day, and I'm like, oh, she loves me. But my nephew, he's like, Uncle Mike, therapy is dope. He's like, therapy is for crazy white people, Uncle Mike. And I'm like,
okay.
Oh, well, you're exactly the reason why I'm doing this, Neff. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, where did you get that from? Media, his community of schooling. It's like, it's so crazy. In the home. And right, for sure, for sure. Man up, be tough.
Stop
you
being
can't
soft.
cry. Right.
Don't cry. Brush it off.
And so I think that's really where it starts down there. So then when you get to be a teenager, you don't know how to express your emotions without fighting somebody. You can't sit and talk through, how are you feeling? How are you feeling? I don't know. No, let's talk about it.
You know what's crazy? I feel like that alone is a pandemic all by itself within the Black community, especially for Black men. That's crazy. Wow. Okay. So talk to me about your experience with therapy. From your very first session to how you are now.
Yeah. So to be honest, like I said, with my friends constantly, I would probably say for a year and a half, maybe almost 2 years, bro, therapy. I ran the other way.
2 years.
For almost 2 years.
Wow.
And you even to look back and say, man, I was 18 and went over 10, 15 years before I, went and got help from dealing with my father's death.
Wow.
So I'm like, dang, if I would have got that at 18, like, I would have been so much further along or whatever. But I ran from it, and from running from it, which is the crazy part to me, is like, it became my passion. And so my first session, I get on with my therapist, super great. It was just like, you the homie? It was like the homie. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like this weird, like, I don't know how it's gonna be. No. It's probably in his mid-40s, Black dude, and was local. But of course with COVID, we were on virtual.
And I'm sorry, how did you find him? Because that's a big question too. People are like, well, I don't even know how to find.
It was so many different, I went through so many different engines of sending things out, emails out.
Gotcha.
I was on BetterHelp.com. I was on Psychology Today. I was on Google just, and I wasn't even necessarily looking for a Black therapist.
Okay.
I was just looking for help.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, you kind of look cool. That's the crazy part, right?
Yeah.
So I was still even looking when I know I needed help. I'm like, well, let me see your profile pic. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, he your brother? Okay.
But he didn't even have one.
Oh, okay.
So he didn't have one.
That wasn't a turnoff for you?
Well, I was just.
I need to know who I'm going to.
So I knew, because I'm trying to remember, I think it gave like a general overview of like that he was Black, around this age, where he was located. But it was, I don't recall, I don't believe he had, no, because I remember our first session, I didn't know what he looked like before our first session. Okay. But I can recall looking up therapists and like, yeah, you look like you would relate to me.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And it was the weirdest thing. I was like, why would you do that? But I literally remember doing that. But it was either like Psychology Today, BetterHelp.
So when you found him, you still been with the same therapist this whole time?
So now that I live in Georgia,
okay,
he's not licensed in this state.
Gotcha.
So I'm actually meeting with a therapist tomorrow for the first time. So
Good
that's
for you. Okay.
the first thing he says to me when we get on the phone. I'm like, bro, I don't know. So where do we start? I'm like, so where do we start? And he's like, just dump. And I'm like, well, okay, like, what do you want to know? And he's like, whatever you want to tell me. He's like, well, let's start with boom, boom, boom. He started bullet pointing things out. We're going to talk about family. We're going to talk about finances. We're going to talk about religion. We're going to talk about childhood. We're going to talk about parenting. He's just like, just bullet point things out that you want to talk about. So I'm like running all these things down, and then we just start. And I'm like, well, and for the first session, I just got to unload, and I was like, bruh.
It was pretty bomb.
I never got to do this before.
Sounds like me. Yeah.
What is this? What is this light feeling?
Without feeling judged.
Without feeling judged.
Yeah.
Without feeling like, I don't know if I really want to tell him this, because now how you gonna look at me?
It's a stranger. Like, I'm not gonna tell a stranger
You know
about
what I'm
all my
saying?
business. Yeah, I get it.
But today, I really don't care.
Yeah. And you're better because of it.
And I'm great. I'm like, so literally, today was not a good day for me, okay? Today, I was just overcome with like so much emotion. Obviously, Be Good brand is like, it's taking off, and it's like, it's just me, okay?
I know that feeling,
It's
Mike.
just me. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I thank y'all for what y'all doing. Y'all putting in work. Y'all want to push this message out with me. Y'all joining the community. But it's a lot.
It's a lot.
And I'm like, thank you, God, for all these people coming and supporting. And literally, I got home I was out, had a meeting this morning, got home around noon, and I'm like, all right, I got a couple of things to do. And I'm like, well, I got some orders to get out. So I get everything set up, and nothing wanted to work right. And it was so frustrating. And I'm like, just emotion, I could feel it from my ankles coming all the way up, okay? And I'm like, I'll tell you straight up, I'm working on a hoodie. One of the Therapy is Dope hoodies. I got a guy who's been waiting for like over a week for his hoodie, and I'm super like, I gotta get these things out. I don't like my customers waiting. And I get everything ready. I go to press the hoodie, and I didn't take the
vinyl part off?
The middle of the A, like I didn't peel it out. So it was like a solid A, and I'm like, no! And it was the only hoodie I had left in his size that finally had came in, and I'm like, I wasted a hoodie, I did this, I did that, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe it.
Yeah.
And so emotions went through the roof, and I'm like, just turn everything down, turn everything off, and I just walked away, and I walked into my room.
Did you learn that from therapy?
I did.
Methods of coping?
Methods of coping, but the best thing I learned was being able to embrace my emotions.
Got it.
And what I did, I went in the room and I cried. And I was okay with that.
But you embraced how
And
you
I'm okay with telling y'all that too. I went in my room and I cried, and I was like, it released.
Yeah.
And that's the thing where it's like, nah, man up, don't cry.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, go ahead and let it out,
Men
bro.
are taught from adolescent age to suppress what they feel, because if you express it, then you are seen as weak. You're not manly enough. You're too feminine.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I let it out, and I literally just face planted on my bed, and I'm just, I'm like, why am I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
And I don't remember the last time I was overcome with this much emotion.
I think that's beautiful.
You know what I'm saying?
I think that's
so
beautiful.
I just drop. I'm like crying. I'm like, all right.
You got it out. So I do want to talk more about, I'm glad you did that.
Yeah.
I'm glad you were able to own how you were feeling. The stigmas of Black men specifically, do you feel like that's changing?
I do, but I still think we have so much more to go.
Right.
And I think it's changing because of conversations like this.
Yeah.
Because of Black therapists being able to, have somebody that looks like me, that talks like me, that's likely where I'm from, that understands my background culturally. It helps. So even last night I was on Instagram Live, and it was so beautiful because it was a room full of Black therapists. And I was like, where y'all been, man? Y'all really out here?
They are out here. And it's so interesting talking about this because the stigma is not just on Black men, it's Black women too.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll be the first to say, I barely started therapy last year for the first time. And it's interesting because I was the one that I was always kind of encouraging everybody else to get therapy, not realizing that I needed therapy. But last year I got out of a very toxic situation, a relationship, and I had to ask myself the question, like, why do I keep attracting the same type of man? And so it forced me to really look at myself, and I was like, okay, let me go ahead and get into therapy to figure out what's going on in me. So through therapy, I was able to learn that it wasn't so much that I was attracting the same type of man, but that I was attracted to the same type of man because they were like my father. Listen, and I would have never discovered this about myself had I not gone to therapy. So I'm an advocate for therapy too. Thank you so much for sharing your heart. I do want us to take a moment to talk about the brand in itself. So let's hype the brand up. Talk to us about the brand.
Yeah, so the brand actually started because of my therapist. Like, I give him mad credit, and even though I still call him my therapist, even though he's not my therapist. We still text pretty
You forged
frequently.
a relationship.
We forged a relationship. Like, he'll just randomly shoot me a text with like a link for some dope video on coping, like on like YouTube or something, and I'm like, bro, you're not getting paid for this. Like, why would you? But it's because he's like, yo, I see something in you. And he just with other young men that he works with, he's like, I think you'd be a great asset to them because some of them were in in the music industry, and we're trying to get in. And he's like, would you mind sharing your experience with them of what you know? And I'm like, yeah. And so that was even therapeutic for me to be able to kind of big brother, little brother with them. I don't even know where I was going with that. Yeah, I don't know.
The brand.
The
Shop
brand,
the
yes,
brand. Tell us the website, how we
that.
can follow your movement.
So the website is Be Good, like you always tell your kids, be good. So it's begoodbrand.co, C-O.
I got that.
Instagram is at begood.brand.
And your personal?
And my personal is Mike. No, that's not it. My personal is who is.
Everybody who comes on the show cannot remember their own Instagram.
So I changed it. I don't even remember why I changed it, but I changed it. But it's who is Mike Guess.
Mike Guess. Okay, y'all got that. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Lastly, before you go, I like to do something called an elevator sermon. We're in the elevator, we're trying to pitch our businesses. Instead, we're going to encourage the audience. Whatever you want to share, if you're talking to, the Black man who may be going through some tumultuous times and wants to seek help or whatever's on your heart, but I want you to give us an elevator sermon to whoever's watching and encourage them to keep going and to get the help that they need.
For sure. So, my man, it's okay to not be okay. Okay? It's no shame in it. One of the most beautiful things that happened to me just this week is my aunt reached out to me. And we didn't have a great relationship growing up. But she reached out to me and she says, nephew, I'm so proud of you. You're in therapy. I've been in therapy for 20 years and I love what you're doing. Young Black man, I'm gonna get behind it. I'm gonna support you. And that meant so much to me because I remember, like I said, how much I ran away from it and didn't want it. And to have someone say, I support you going to therapy, who looked like me, who was as close to me as a family member as my aunt. And it was like, wow, So I would encourage you that, there's no shame. You're going to get in therapy and you're going to get healthy, bro. Like, one of the things that I really like to do is even narrow it down even more from the men and directly to fathers. You can't be a great father if you're not great mentally, or even a good father if you're not good mentally. If we want to change our homes, it starts with our fathers. We have a lot of weight on us, on our shoulders. We do so much, we're responsible for so much. So it's like, why would you want to carry that alone? Why wouldn't you want to foster a relationship with somebody that's going to partner with you in being the best version of you? With no judgment, with, nobody's looking down their nose at you, but they can give you the best tools for you to be the best you. Like, I can't explain any better than you get the father good, you get the home good. You get the home good, you get the community good. And it all starts at home. Everything that we're dealing with in our community, the violence, the killing, the stealing, the robbing, it starts because the foundation in the home wasn't right. And so if we can get that right, I'm not saying that therapy is a magic wand and it's going to make it all better, but it's going to allow you to realize those coping techniques. It's going to allow you to better parent from being more aware emotionally of yourself, of your children, of your spouse, of your family, and just even in the world. When you go to work, like to the point now where, like I said, just sat here and had a conversation that I was a big crybaby earlier today, and I'm cool with that because it helped. And so don't be ashamed. Don't be afraid. There's so much more life on the other side of getting healthy. So y'all be good.
That's a word. Appreciate you, Mike. Thank you so much for being here.
Sure.
Thank you for your transparency, your vulnerability, your story, your heart. Thank you for it all.
For sure.
That concludes another episode of Faith and Fame TV. Listen, make sure you are following us on all social media platforms at Faith and Fame TV. We'll see you next time.
Bye.